there's TCM, it's got the 5 flavors. Ayurveda's got the 6 flavors. I read that you have 10 flavors in your course. And I was just wondering if you could do maybe like a brief overview of what that's all about.
Well, you're correct. TCM, it's Wu-Wei, 5 flavors. TCM, there's 6. And I have a system. It's a class. It's called the 10 Tastes, the Energetics of Herbs. And the easiest way to understand energetics is by tasting things. And in reality, based on, anatomy, there are 5 flavors. One of them being umami, which is not in any of these systems at all, because it's mostly the meaty flavor. And the only plants that really have umami flavor are some mushrooms, which really aren't plants. Things like sun-dried tomatoes. There aren't many plant things that have this umami flavor.
Seaweed, maybe?
Yeah, some seaweeds, dulse and kelp have that umami flavor. Black mushroom, the dried shiitakes very much have that umami flavor. So, but in TCM and Ayurveda, one of the things they do is they incorporate some things that actually aren't flavors. They're mouthfeels. So slimy or moistening, that's a mouthfeel. It's not a flavor. Spicy is not a flavor, actually. It's a mouthfeel. It's burning. And so what I've done is taken what I know from TCM, what I know of Ayurveda, which is I know a lot of Ayurvedic herbs. I'm not trained in the Ayurvedic tradition per se, although I've read widely. The Unani Tib tradition, which I've also read widely and taken some classes about. And I've kind of put it together and created my own system of Western energetics based on tastes. And I've been teaching that class for 35 years, maybe. Wow. And of course it's changed and it's grown, and I've corrected things because of, I started off thinking this and realized that wasn't necessarily correct. But the cool thing about the energetics of herbs, the 10 tastes, is that anybody, I'm not saying you can be good at it, but anybody in a 5-hour class can learn it. So people who already have a background in Ayurveda or TCM, they already have a system of energetics, or Unani Tib, or Tibetan medicine, etc. But if somebody is a Western herbalist who has no energetic background, it's easy to learn. Is it work all the time? I'd say about 80% of the time it works. And I would also say that TCM and Ayurveda nothing works 100% of the time. Sure. But it's a really easy way to grasp that simply by tasting something, you can tell what its taste is, and that the tastes are a little bit more subtle than just, So like in the Chinese books, you'll read, depending on the translator, they'll often translate one term into 3 English words, that being spicy, pungent, and acrid. The problem is they're 3 unique different things. So they're 3 flavors.
Right.
Okay. And then there's the salty flavor. There's the true salt flavor, which is the flavor of sodium chloride, or the predominant flavor of tamari, or any of our salty seasonings. But then there's the mineral salt flavor, which most Americans would describe as bitter, except it's and what you're tasting is the minerals. It's really ephemeral, meaning it's there and it's gone. Real bitters are persistent. They're bitter going in, they're bitter going down, and if you had tertiary taste buds, they'd be bitter going out. They are.
Thank goodness we don't.
Yeah, exactly. They're persistently bitter. And so what I did is realized, and there are most bitters are cold, but there's a small group of warming bitters, which is really important to use with the cooling bitters to create a bitters formula that is sustainable, because eventually those cooling bitters will damp down digestive fire over a long period of time. And so it's basically looking at the flavors, looking at the subtleties of the flavors, and realizing that you really could make a good case, I hope I have, that there are really 10 flavors and mouthfeels that you can then determine what the actions of a plant are going to be based on experiencing them. And the wonderful thing is, I don't need a computer to do this. I don't need fancy equipment. I don't need blood work. It's not invasive. All I need is equipment that I leave the house with every single day, my mouth and tongue. And as long as I don't have a nosmia, haven't lost my sense of smell or taste, it works.
Perfect overview. And if folks want to dive deeper, I'm sure that they can learn about that in the David Winston Center for Herbal Studies course you're starting the interviews again, just to underline that, in March. And then class begins September 2024. So we'll leave a link to that in the podcast show notes and the YouTube description and all that good stuff. So